Hello, it's John S. Sports Channel here again with another prediction video, this time the Championship Week 19. And I do apologise, I do use the Sky videos of the previous games, and obviously Burnley's game last time out, as one of our viewers told me, didn't include an awful lot of those shots that Burnley had actually managed to put on target. And to be quite honest, it does give you a false sense. It gave me a false sense of Preston actually being in the game a little bit more than apparently someone who watched the entire game believed them to have. So, unfortunately, it's just one of those things. I can't be watching 90 minutes of all games, otherwise I'd be here for several days just watching the updates and then come in doing a review for you. So we're going to look at Burnley versus Borough, and I do apologise to the guy, I really do. Burnley have been playing really well, and I keep saying this, and I'm sure I'm sure some of you are a little bit disgruntled with this, but the fact that Burnley are just not quite scoring as many as we would expect from an ex-Premier League side. They lost 1-0. In the last 6 games, only once to Millwall away, but Millwall are good at home. Then they drew 0-0 to West Brom. Well, we know what West Brom playing against West Brom's like. There are very few goals in West Brom's games. Then they won the last 4, 1-0, 1-0, 2-0, 2-0. Not a huge range of scores here. It is ones and twos. But they do win them, and the fact that they've only let 1 goal in the last 6 games, and you think, wow, Burnley 6 conceded in the last 18 games. Their defence is really impressive, and they're playing a Middlesbrough side that have won 4 out of their last 6, 4-1, 5-1, 6-2 and 3-1. So we're starting to see a bit of a roll from Middlesbrough. They lost twice, 3-0 at home to Coventry and 1-0 at home to Blackburn. And they don't seem to be scoring more at home or away. It seems to be both home and away, Borough. So they're pretty impressive, even on the road. So this is going to be quite difficult. Normally, I would be saying, well, Burnley are just block solid at the back, and it's just a case of whether Burnley can score, and Borough do let goals in. So I think Burnley scoring against Borough, I would imagine, is more likely than not going to happen, because it's they do score the odd goal or two, and Borough do let the odd goal in. They do have lapses in concentration. That back, and several times I've seen them leave themselves with 3 at the back, and the 3 have come forward, and the opposition seem to just float straight through them. I think it happened at least once or twice with the Coventry game when they lost 3-0 at home to Coventry. So it's going to be difficult. What are you saying? 1-1, 2-2, 2-1 to Burnley, 1-1, 1-0 to Burnley. Now, I'm going to go with you lot, because the part of me is sort of saying, well, it could be 2-1 to Borough, but I just can't see Burnley. Letting 2 goals in. So I'm going to go with you lot. I'm going to go with Burnley 1, Borough 0. Leeds United versus Derby next, and we'll see what Leeds United versus Derby has for us, shall we? So we go to our 12:30 games on a Saturday, and it's Leeds United, who've been gently, I want to say they've been gently improving over the last few games, and they have been. They've been really, really strong at the beginning of the season. They just had a bit of a blip. The 1-0 defeat against Millwall, obviously away. Millwall are really good at home. And last time out, 1-0 to Blackburn, a defeat away, which I certainly didn't see coming. And they keep having the little tiny blips, more recently, I would say. But I say even a blip for them though is 2 defeats in 6, which is still pretty good, isn't it? And they're playing a Derby side who've won 1 in their last 6, lost to Stoke, won 2-1 away to Coventry, drawn to Plymouth, drawn to Preston, lost to Swansea and lost to Sheffield Wednesday. And Derby County, for me, have been playing pretty decent football actually, and I was quite impressed when they were playing Sheffield Wednesday. I don't think they put that, dropped their head. I don't think they stopped trying. They constantly tried to get back in. They didn't, but they constantly tried. They didn't look too overwhelmed at any particular point in the game. So I do enjoy their football, but Warne tends to just stick with the same style. And if it's not working again, he'll just continue until like the last 3 minutes, and then put one of the reserves on. You're thinking, too late now. So he does seem to be doing the same trick at Derby. But I don't think Leeds are going to be very easy to beat, especially if you're not willing to change that formula mid-game should it start to go wrong. What are you all saying? You're saying 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 2-0, 2-0. Now, looking at Leeds, they can a 3-4 win against Swansea City. They can get flustered, and they tend not to. The other 5 games of the last 6, they've let in 0. But that one game, 3-4 against a 3-4 win against Swansea, where did it come from? So they can let goals in. It's highly unlikely, but they can. Derby County, it tends to be 1s and 2s. It is only 1s and 2s in the last 6 games, and you're thinking, can they really score more than 1 or 2? And I don't think so. Can they score more than 1 or 2 against Leeds? I really don't think so. So what are you saying? 2-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 2-0. Looking at the scores out, I'm going to go with most of you, and I'm going to go with Leeds United 2, Derby County 0. I don't think that Derby will be able to come out with a goal on that one, I'm afraid. And we'll go on to our next game, which is Sheffield Wednesday versus Preston. Sheffield Wednesday, lose, win, lose, draw, win, win. I mean, this is up and down, isn't it? Try and get something out of that. 6-2 defeat at home to Watford. Then a 2-0 win at home to Norwich. A 1-0 defeat to Sheffield United away, but that's the Steel City derby. That can go anyway. Cardiff 1-1, Hull 2-0 win away, and then Derby 2-1 win away. They're not getting overwrought by many sides. Obviously, 6-2 defeat to Watford was certainly one where they did get overwrought. But usually it's 1s and 2s and 0 goals are knocking around. There's not great. They're not massive scorers, and usually the defence is actually quite decent. And just that one Watford game that seemed to, out of the last 6, that really did scupper the data, didn't it? Preston though they did not too bad. Then they started doing a little bit worse. Then they started to really improve, and they started to put a few points in. And as soon as they got the few points in, they just went up that league a little bit. And one of our Preston sort of people, watchers, said, you've not seen us go up there. Yeah, they did. They did, absolutely. And I didn't see them get those 2 wins until it suddenly leapfrog several teams, because it is so flat in that area. 1 or 2 wins and you're past those the 6 teams above you. They're playing a Preston side though, who 3-1 defeat at home to Bristol City, a draw to Sunderland, a defeat to away to Portsmouth 3-1, and I didn't really think they played too badly in that one. I thought 3-1 was rather harsh for them, really. 1-1 draw at home to Derby, 0-0 to Stoke, and 1-1 to West Brom. They just don't seem to, at the minute, be able to get too much out there. And of course, you had the Freddie Woodman sent off at 90 minutes against Stoke, but I don't think that really made too much of a difference. Although against Stoke, you have to think 8 shots in total, 3 on target in the entire game. So they're not shooting a great deal. I mean, even Derby, let's see what they did against Derby. The stats there. Yeah, 11 shots, but 3 on target. So they're not shooting enough on target. Can they start here at Sheffield Wednesday? They could do. They could certainly, but I think we have to take this as on an average basis, because there's no one team here that really stands out to me, and I can see Sheffield Wednesday being able to put up that back line and not panic against this side, because this side doesn't really, the Preston side's not, I don't think, going to get too many shots on target. It may suddenly surprise and Preston get 2 goals in 10 minutes and Sheffield Wednesday just collapse and it ends up 8-0. But I don't think it will. So what are you saying? 1-0 to Sheffield Wednesday, 1-1, 2-0, 1-0, 1-1. Draw or Sheffield Wednesday? Sheffield Wednesday usually quite good at home. I say usually, you've got that Watford game, haven't you? But usually they're quite difficult to break down at home. But the only, like Sunderland and Stoke are the only games that the last 2 out of the last 6 that Preston have scored 0-0. And they're the only ones where they scored 0. So I think it's going to be difficult to see them scoring more than that. I think I'm tempted to whether Preston are going to score. I can see where you're all coming from. 1-0, 1-1. Very, very. It could be either one. I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to Sheffield Wednesday 1, Preston 1. And we'll move on to Sunderland versus Stoke. Now, Sunderland in 4th versus Stoke in 14th. I think that that Burnley game, it was Stoke that Burnley played, wasn't it? And Stoke, I thought Stoke actually weren't too overwrought, but our Burnley fan there thought that they ran them ragged all the way through the game. I must admit, I'm looking at Sky's coverage, and Sky's coverage of that game was as bad as our Rotherham game. They didn't show the fact that we should have had 2 penalties, but we'll forget those completely. So the coverage can be difficult, and trying to get more coverage is quite hard, because then I could be spending half a day just looking at the different games and backing up what we saw on the day's live stream. So it is difficult. I do apologise then. Stoke versus Stoke away to Sunderland. Sunderland, the Stadium of Light is always difficult, isn't it? But look at this: draw, lose to Sheffield United, and the teams that they've been drawing against: QPR, Preston, Coventry, Millwall, West Brom. Now, I'd expect West Brom, not many goals in West Brom's games at all, but they do seem to sneak up the odd goal and the odd win, enough to keep them up there. So, good on them. But they're not doing too well all of a sudden. And they've gone from 1st position down to 4th. And can they get back? They can. I think they did well against Sheffield United, and that 1-0 win, which is something that Sheffield United quite often do. Just win it and then sit back and make sure they stay ahead. That was testament to me that Sunderland can just get a little bit more in their tank. They've got a little bit more in their tanks. They can do this, and I think they will. Will they do it at home to Stoke? I think that there's a good chance they will. Stoke City win, draw, and a lose to Burnley. They were okay. I don't think that Stoke were completely overwrought. They they did. There was that penalty that really, yeah, it would have been a soft penalty for me, and I think it wasn't it was it a trip, possibly brushed his foot. Did he jump? Most likely, but even brushing his foot, I suppose, is a penalty in this day and age, which I don't agree with. But hey, if that's the way that they do it in all other games, then they should have done it in that game as well against Burnley. So, are they playing good football? Yes, their defence can be quite frail. I'm sorry, but their goalkeeper they got from us does occasionally drop some real clangers. The back line can drop clangers, and I don't think that's this game in the Stadium of Light is the right game to be prone to dropping clangers at the back. Their front line can score, but it hasn't been scoring a great deal over the last 6 games. I'm a little bit worried that that Stoke are going to find this a little bit too difficult. I haven't heard any mind games in the news, and I haven't read any. I had a quick look, didn't see any. Sunderland 4th, Stoke 14th. What are you saying? 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 3-0, 2-1, 2-0. Most of you are saying that score. I'm going to go with most of you. Sunderland 1, Stoke 0. And we'll move on to Cardiff City versus Watford. Of course, Cardiff City announced that the manager now has, it's not temporary, it is now permanent. So Cardiff City in 20th are sticking with their manager. Watford in 6th. And let's see what the history and the data is behind these two. So as far as the news is concerned, Watford are banging the drum here. They're one of the first teams we've seen that are actually banging the drum. We're going to raid the Welsh capital. Yes, Hornets can do this. And yeah, so a little bit of mind game from the Watford camp. I love it when I love it. This is the old-fashioned stuff, isn't it? Like banging the drum and making it like a raid on the capital. That sounds really brilliant, doesn't it? Cardiff City, though, they're now... It's a lot easier when you appoint somebody permanent, even if he's already been there for a few months. It's good because it means that the guys have stability on the pitch. They're not thinking, is someone else going to come in? He's only temporary. Who are they going to bring in? So now there's a bit of stability there, and that might improve, almost like a bit of a new manager bounce without having a new manager. Win, lose, draw, lose, draw. They've not been doing very well. But they won again. They won at home 6 games ago against Norwich. And you have to think, it was actually a bad game. It was actually, they deserved that. And they did well, I think, against Sheffield Wednesday away at Hillsborough. At Hillsborough. So it went quite well. And I think they were quite unlucky at Luton. So they've not been playing too badly. They played reasonably well against Coventry. I think Coventry actually, if anything, Coventry lowered their standard last week, and they didn't play as well as what I thought they would do, and they allowed Cardiff to look a lot better, perhaps. But they did play a little bit better than they have done, and they're playing a Watford side. Win 6-2 against Wednesday, as we've said just earlier. Lose, win, draw, win, draw. It's quite a mix, isn't it? And we have to look at this and think there's things like a Swansea defeat away 1-0. And they don't want to be losing to Swansea, do they? But they did. But they came back with a win against Oxford, but it was only 1-0 against an Oxford side that started to collapse a little bit. And then 2-2 again away at home, away to Plymouth. And Plymouth are usually quite good at home, so that's a good draw. But they've been being hammered recently, so perhaps they should have been able to do a little bit better. So it's a little bit mishmash on both sides here, And I actually find this a little bit odd. And so do you. I love it when I get the same thoughts as what you're doing. 1-1, 0-0, 1-1. And then two people said 1-2 to Watford. Now, I'm sort of looking at the banging of the drum here and how this is going to affect the minds of the players. And I just think that given the last four games of Watford, this could just work for Watford. And I'm going to go with those two people who said Cardiff 1, Watford 2. Banging of the drum. Yeah, I like the idea. Raiding the capital. I just think it's one of the old-fashioned methods, isn't it? Mind games. Doesn't always work, but, we'll move on. Hull versus Blackburn next, and let's just have a quick look at the history, and we'll see what the news is on these two sides, shall we? So looking at the news, Blackburn are the ones making the news. Blackburn are just rolling out a few. Yeah, we can extend this 3-match winning run. We're gonna do it against Hull City, and and what a chance for us to do this, guys. They've lost their last 5 games. They haven't won in the last 6. A draw against Portsmouth, then a defeat, and it's against Oxford, West Brom, Luton, West Sheffield Wednesday, and Borough. And usually 1s or 2s, but 3-1 last time out, lost to Borough. And you're thinking, that side's just not clicking, is it? And I can't see anything else other than a Blackburn win. And neither can you. 1-0 to Blackburn, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1. Now, looking at this, Hull City do have a knack of getting the odd goal here and there. And I'd agree with the one person who say that they're going to score. I think you're probably quite right. Hull in 22nd, Blackburn in 8th. I don't think they're going to get it all their own way. And Hull may be able to get an early goal and hang on to it for dear life and just get a fluke win or a fluke draw. But I think it's going to be more likely that Blackburn will score first and Hull will get a consolation. But who knows? Hull City fans, if you get a goal first, you may be able to hang on to this. Looking at the number of goals scored by Blackburn, it could quite easily be a 1-0 win to Hull City. But I'm going to go with Hull City 1, Blackburn 2. And we move on to Luton versus Swansea. And what's happened at Luton, guys? So look at Luton's. There's not much news in this game. Luton Town, draw, win, lose, lose. 1-1, 1-1 win, 5-1 defeat, 1-0 win, 3-0 defeat, 4-2 defeat, and that Norwich win could have been a hell of a lot more, couldn't it? Against Swansea City, who we know they can let goals in, we know they can score goals, which makes it really difficult because we know Luton can do exactly the same. A win again, 2-1 and 1-0 against Oxford and Watford, and then 2 defeats, 1-0 and 3-4 against Burnley and then Leeds, and then a win against Derby 2-1 and a draw 2-2 at home to Portsmouth. Now Portsmouth played quite well there. Swansea just couldn't get further than that 2-2, coming back to draw, and you're thinking, that team can score. They don't put the heads down. I find it difficult to score this. It could go either way. I don't think it's going to be a draw. I really don't think this one is going to be a draw. I think that it will either go to the Swans or it will go to the Hatters, and I'm not quite sure which way it's going to go. And I'm looking at you lot and I'm thinking, well, you're no help at all, are you? You really aren't. 2-1 to Swansea, 1-1, 2-1 to Luton, 0-0 and 1-0 to Luton. Looking at the scores, looking at how poorly Luton have been letting goals in when they've started to let when they've started to let 2 or 3 in, they seem to just collapse. 1 goal in, they don't seem to collapse quite as much. as soon as you get to 2 or 3, they seem to just disappear down the tunnel. I don't think that's going to happen. However, I do think it's going to be Luton 1, Swansea 2, and we'll move on to Millwall versus Coventry. And Millwall are excellent at home. They've got that den as being one of those. I mean, last year it wasn't, but this year it's back to being the den, the place where people hate to go. Having said that, the last time at home it was 1-1 against Sunderland, so they managed Sunderland to get away with a point, which was really, really good, but look where they are in the league. A win, a draw. The last 3 draws, 1-1 away at Stoke, 1-1 at home to Sunderland, and 1-1 away at Oxford. They just seem to be... And the 3 games before, the 3 wins were all 1-0 wins. Swansea, Burnley and Leeds. And you think, okay, Burnley and Leeds, good sides. 1-0 is actually really good. And you think, there's not many goals in this. And you look at the Coventry side, and there's 2s everywhere. It's 3-0 win, 2-1 defeat to Derby, 2-2 to Sunderland, 2-2 to Sheffield United, 2-0 defeat to Burnley, 2-2 draw to Cardiff. And there seems to be a sort of quite a decent scoring. They're now starting to score quite regularly, Coventry. And I'm tempted to go with 1-1 or 2-2. In fact, because most of you... I was sort of thinking 1-0 to Millwall, but I'm not going to... I think it's 1-1 or 2-2. I'm going to go with... Millwall 1, Coventry 1. I'm going to go with most of you lot thinking it's going to be a draw, and all your fault if we lose this one. Well, Swansea, Coventry, right? Millwall, Coventry. We'll go to Plymouth versus Oxford. Now, Plymouth Oxford has been postponed apparently, but we will go through it. Plymouth have been playing pretty poorly. 10 goals conceded in the last 2 games, 12 goals conceded in the last 3, 2-2, 6-1, 4-0. A trouncing 6-1 against away at Norwich. A pretty poor performance by them against a Bristol City side that actually did really well and definitely turned up this time, 4-0. They do seem to play a little bit better at home. So, how many games? 1, 2. They've only played twice at home in the last 6. So it's a little bit difficult because they play really well at home, and they do manage to scrape out wins at home. And I can see this one being, when it does get played, being just one of those normal, really well-played home games. What are you saying? 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 3-1, 2-0. You're all going with Plymouth. I'm going to join you. I'm going to go Plymouth 2, Oxford 1. I don't know when that one's being replayed, but hey. And then we go to Portsmouth versus Bristol City. And I just want to have a quick look at the news first while we have a look at that. Portsmouth versus Bristol City. We have news. I don't seem to be having any real news from each camp, so we'll go on with the game. Portsmouth lose, draw, lose, win, draw. They do seem to... I mean, those last 3 games have actually been quite good. A defeat to Plymouth, although that was quite narrow, and it was away. Plymouth are good at home, but only 1-0 defeat, which against the Plymouth side that play really well at home is not a bad result from a bottom half team. Preston win 3-1. They played really well. Swansea 2-2 draw. Now, actually, they were away at Swansea and they were 2-0 up and they were playing really good football. I actually found it enjoyable as a neutral to watch that game. So I think that they've started to play quite well. But they're playing a Bristol City side that's just thumped Plymouth 4-0 at home, on the back of losing 1-0 to Burnley at home and Watford away. The others, 2 wins and a defeat. 2 wins against Norwich and Preston and a defeat to Sheffield United. So, yeah, we would expect that. They sometimes don't turn up, though, and other times they do. They definitely turned up against Plymouth. They played really, really cracking football. Enjoyable as well. Really enjoyable to watch. Enjoyable game. Not because of the goals particularly, although the goals were enjoyable, but because they actually played really good football. It was really enjoyable to watch the football. But you're playing a Portsmouth team who are at home, and they're starting to play really well. What are you lot saying? 2-1 to Bristol, 2-1 to Bristol, 2-2, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. You know, I'm gonna go with you lot. Portsmouth are just down the road, so I really want to be going sort of 2-1 to Portsmouth, but I'm going to follow what you're telling me to do, and I'm going to go with Portsmouth 1, Bristol City 1. And let's go to QPR versus Norwich next, and we're getting towards the end here. QPR versus Norwich, as I did the last time. I keep doing it offline. We'll have a quick look at the news just to see what if there's anything news coming from these two camps. QPR. Saints to rattle the hoops. Ooh, oh dear. Yeah. That was a bit... Saints, not Saints, Saints. S-A-I-N-Z to rattle the hoops. So Norwich City rattling a few cages. Go to the other side. Yeah, it's just rattling a few. Norwich City just trying to say how good they are, and that the hoops have got no chance whatsoever. And not a lot of sabre rattling, just a little bit from the Norwich camp. 23rd position QPR, 9th position Norwich. Norwich just trying to get the mind game going a little bit. QPR draw, lose, draw, win, draw. They've only got 1 win in the last 6, and it's been against Cardiff away 2-0. But they have been playing decent football, and they've been really good in defence. They've been playing this. If the opposition is attacking, everybody in the box just block everything, and it's been working. The only side that really scored a lot against them was Borough when they lost 4-1 at home to Middlesbrough back on November the 5th. The rest of the games they've been doing quite well. Even if they've not lost by a great deal. 2-0 to Leeds away, and Leeds are Leeds. You know, they're a really good team to be playing against. So I wouldn't see Norwich having too much of a problem, especially seeing as they've scored 10 goals in their last 2 games. 6-1 to Plymouth, 4-2 to against Luton, but they were both at home, and this one's away from home. Away from home, 2-2 going backwards, 2-2 to West Brom. Home defeat to Bristol City. You see, suddenly they Bristol turned up. Away defeat to Wednesday. You see, they had a blip, didn't they, Norwich? And they had an area where they just didn't quite click, and all of a sudden 10 goals in 2 games. You think, well, hang on, where did this team come from? Same team, just playing a hell of a lot better. Yeah, a couple of people back from injury, I think. So now that they're getting them back, it's really started to re-click. And it's just, to me, it's a case of whether QPR will score. I'm going to go with QPR 0, Norwich 2. Yeah, you also 1-0, 1-1, 1-1, 1-2, 1-2. Yeah, I think 0-2. I can't see QPR actually scoring, although they are getting better. And I do see them pulling further up that table. I can't really see them staying 23rd. I can see them improving and getting up there. Don't know how many places, but I can see them improving. Albion versus Sheffield United next, and Sheffield United this is one of those games where Sheffield are a team who win games by attrition. And let's have a look. 2-0 win, 2-1 win, 1-0 win, 2-2 draw, 3-0 win. One of the first times I've seen a 3 in front of a Sheffield United score. And then 1-0 win. So wins against Blackburn, Bristol, Sheffield Wednesday, Oxford and Sunderland. A mixture of teams from the top and the bottom. So pretty good. West Brom, we know what West Brom are like. Although they did win 2-1 against Hull and they did draw 2-2 against Norwich, but the others 1-1, 0-0, 0-0 and 1-1. They don't score many, they don't shoot many on target, and if they could get more of these shots on target, they put in the net quite a big percentage of what they actually fire on target. But it's not many. So ones and perhaps the odd 2 is where they are. Against the Sheffield United side that also score very few. And I'm looking at you all saying like 0-0, 0-0, 0-1 to Sheffield United, 1-1, 1-1 and 1-1. Now, I'm going to go with all of you. I totally agree with it. Absolutely agree with you. West Brom 1, Sheffield United 1. That's John S.'s Sports Channel. Looking for you to like and subscribe. I got a strike on my cricket live. I won't be live this weekend. I won't be live until at the earliest Tuesday night. I may be able to just sneak inside that 7-day, but they might call Tuesday part of it. So maybe back on a Wednesday. But you won't see me on Saturday because I have got a strike and I won't be there. I thought I got away with it and I didn't. So I changed the shape of the video and put me on top of it and they still caught me out for it. Technical. We're going to call it a day on there. It's John S.'s Sports Channel. Like and subscribe. We will be back with a live, not this weekend, but the weekend after. Do try and make any comments in the box like the Burnley fan did. Thank you very much. I do enjoy getting those comments, and I do enjoy having a bit of a banter in the emails, corresponding with each other. It's all a bit of fun, isn't it? So let's keep it that way. And John S.'s Sports Channel over and out for another prediction video. Thank you very much.